Welcome. Thank you for coming out this morning. And welcome to the June 23rd, the Fairfield Glade Community Club Board of Directors meeting. This morning's meeting is open to all members of the community club and is being recorded for viewing on the community club website. We also live streaming this event for this morning for meeting for the member viewing. To honor America, please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence to remember those who are serving our country. I pledge the allegiance of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Pat, would you please call the roll?
Here. Mr. Full. Mrs. Galloway.
Here.
Mr. Jones.
Here.
Mrs. Miller.
Here.
Mrs. Storr.
Here.
Mr. Wedgeworth.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have 6 board members present, therefore we do have a quorum.
Okay. Pat, just a note for the minutes that Ken Floor's out of town at a family wedding in New York, and Bob Weber's in Florida. His father-in-law passed away late last night, so he had to go to Florida for that. So we ask that you keep Bob and his wife Cecilia in your thoughts and prayers. May I have a motion for approval of the minutes from May 26, 2022?
I so approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
In the audience this morning, we have Colleen Mall, a District County Commissioner. Are you back there, Colleen? There you are. You got anything to add this morning? Okay, Joe's here, 6th District. You got anything, Joe? Mayor, you take up their time then. Come on up.
I'll actually be brief too. Thanks for letting me come out here today. How many of y'all got your property reassessments recently and about fainted? Boy, me too. That was tough stuff, wasn't it? If you get my newsletter, I already explained it. If you don't get my newsletter, shame on you. You should get my newsletter. It comes in the email. But in Tennessee, when the assessments go up, the certified rate goes down. Always, as in any other year, the commission could actually raise property taxes, but the certified rate will drop. And there's absolutely no reason to raise taxes this year. They've talked about it yesterday. And with the way the law works, the new rate has to take in about the same amount of money as the previous year. So our property tax rate was $1.5653 per assessed value, and it's going to drop, if all things work out as I believe they will, to $1.1350. So that's a significant drop on $2.2 billion of assessments in the county. That was just a growth from new buildings and things of about $250,000. So as you can see in Tennessee, values up, rates down. Just wanted to let everybody know where we stood on that. A couple of other little small items. Buc-ee's, Monday morning, 6 a.m. it opens, 11 a.m. is the the ribbon cutting, so everybody is welcome to that. It's going to get wild. It's not one of those things that you can wait 2 weeks until the traffic dies down and go. It's always going to be crazy. It may just keep getting worse and worse. I don't know. But that's a good thing. And the Chick-fil-A, late August. Everybody's asking me. Looks like the Chick-fil-A in town is going to open in late August. Last thing, county general and state primary elections are coming up. The early voting is going to start the 15th of July and go through the 30th. Remember, the election commission has moved to 83 Northside Lane. Northside Drive is the road between Romo's and Bojangles, and Northside Lane is the left right before the light, and you'll go and see the election commission. We'll try to have good signage out again. But the election day is August 4th, and you will, if you miss early voting, you will be voting at your precinct. So keep that in mind. It's coming up quickly. And that is all I have today, unless there are any questions. Thank you,
Mayor, very much. Thank you. At this time, I'm going to share with you the across-the-board comments developed by the Board of Directors. First item is the senior safety programs. Recently, we shared that our Fairfield Glade Police Department Fairfield Glade Resident Services, Alzheimer's Tennessee, and Memory Care are joining together to roll out these senior safety programs on July the 19th from 3 to 5 here at the center for the information fair and at the Fairfield Glade Police Department Safety Day event on September 1 from 10:30 to 2 p.m. at the square. At the events, information will be provided on the yellow dot, vial of program, the vial of life, and the silver alert programs. These three important senior safety programs can provide critical, time-sensitive information to assist emergency responders and can be the difference between a tragedy or a full recovery from an accident or medical emergency. The Yellow Dot program is recognized by emergency personnel throughout the state of Tennessee and alerts emergency first responders that emergency contacts and medical information can be found in a folder located in the glove compartment of your vehicle. The Vial of Life program alerts emergency first responders that emergency contacts and vital medical information can be found in a small prescription light located in your home's freezer. The Fairfield Glade Resident Services has been responsible for implementing the Vital Life program for several years, and this program is only active in Cumberland County. The Silver Alert program was passed through the Tennessee legislature during the 2021 season, and with the advocacy of the Alzheimer's Tennessee, and is similar to the Amber Alert for children, but for senior citizens. The Silver Alert program helps at-risk seniors and makes response time quicker to locate an individual if the spouse and/or caregiver has completed a Silver Alert form. The information is maintained and secured online with the Fairfield Glade Police Department and allows officers immediate access to the at-risk individual's information. If you have questions or other need additional information regarding these three important senior safety programs, please contact the Fairfield Glade Police Department at 931-484-3785. A food and beverage update. We're continuing to search for a new food and beverage director. With the departure of the food and beverage director, we will be focusing all of our attention on operating Stonehenge Grill in a manner that delivers a level of service and quality that our members expect and deserve. Since the end of 2021, the food and beverage operation has provided a variety of dining options for community utilizing both the Stonehenge Grill as well as the center. Community support for these events was significantly less than we anticipated, resulting in lackluster financial performance. As a result, we will be reconsidering our plans to expand the kitchen at the center. The lack of community support for our food and beverage operations during 2022 is consistent with the trends we have seen since 2019, when we were operating two full-service beverage restaurants venues, and only 1.8% of 5,277 households spent more than $100 a month in our food and beverage menus. This is approximately 4 meals a month. In 2021, we've already one dining venue, only 1.58 or 1.1 of 5,419 households spent more than $100 in our food and beverage. While we hear comments from segments of our membership who want additional dining options, the demonstrated lack of support speaks volumes to the contrary and will be a significant consideration as we reassess our capital plans during the year's budget process. A quick update on the election process. This year we will elect one director at large, the interval owner, timeshare, and the developer, the declarant, representative to the board. The Fairfield Glade Community Club is a property owners association, and each membership parcel is allocated one vote in the election process. The interval owner, which is the timeshare representative of the board, is nominated by the timeshare association's presidents, and the developer, or the declarant, representative to the board is nominated by the declarant. This year we'll have 3 candidates for the at-large director seat. They are Hank Kenny, Bruce Horn, and Catherine Schreck. We will hold a Meet the Candidates event is scheduled for Thursday, July 28th, 2022. Electronic balloting begins on Monday, August the 8th, 2022, and ends on Friday, September the 22nd at 11:59 p.m. The results of the election will be announced at the 2022 annual membership meeting held at 10 a.m. on Friday, September 16th, 2022, here at the center. Newly elected members of the Board of Directors begin their term of office at the annual membership and participate in the election of the Board of Directors officers immediately following the annual membership meeting. Officers of the Board of Directors serve for one-year term. Okay, as community club members, each of you has a responsibility to do your homework on each of the candidates. Their bios are online now, so you feel free to look at those. The candidates are posted on the website. Each of the candidates will also have an opportunity to respond to a series of questions from the election committee, which will also be posted on the community club website. Research their positions on topics you feel are important, and then make an informed decision relative to which candidate deserves your support and, more importantly, your vote. The outcomes of the elections have consequences, and the future of Fairfield Glade depends on your participation in the election process. And the board would certainly like to thank the election committee for the outstanding work they've done this year. I see one in the audience this morning. Joe, thank to the rest of the team for what you've done. Project updates. As we announced last month, it is no surprise that the current rate of inflation is affecting the cost of construction. We continue to reevaluate all of our current and proposed 22 and 2023 major capital projects to reassess their priorities in order to keep expenditures within our capital expense budget. Here are a couple of the latest updates. The Racket Center renovation. The Racket Center continued to install landscaping and the paving in the parking lot, and I believe it's been completed stripe. Is that right, Sam?
Half of it has been.
Okay, all right, so we're almost there. Okay, thanks, Sam. The Robin Hood Park expansion. We have accessed the initial construction bids for the next phase of Robin Hood Park expansion projects for a pavilion with restrooms, bocce courts, and hard surface paths. We are awaiting the results of the value engineering efforts by the architect and winning bid for element on the project. We will really evaluate the timing of the next steps in this process and may consider deferring phases of this project until next year due to rising construction costs. The Heatherhurst Club renovation. We are also awaiting the results of the value engineering efforts by the architect and winning bid of this project for renovations to update the Heatherhurst snack bar area. While the initial cost estimates were within our budget of $350,000, final cost estimates are expected to exceed our projected budget, requiring us to reevaluate the project's priority. Actual construction will be deferred at a minimum until the end of 2022 golf season. Final on the Druid Hills project. The Druid Hills planning team continues to work on the initial planning process to determine what the next Druid Hills clubhouse facility should provide for our growing community. The steering committee is engaging with a land planning consultant earlier this month and has initiated discussions with the consultant that includes the overall scope of the project and proposed dates for the consultant to be on site to review the project. Meanwhile, the golf and F&B committees continue their work on finalizing the process and schedule to gather input from the community and plan to regularly update the community on the project status and activities. A magnified updating the community will go out next week. Members who would like to share additional comments regarding the Druid Hills project can reach out to the Druid Hills planning team by sending email messages to druidhillsprojects@fairfieldglade.cc. Information concerning the Druid Hills Advanced Planning Team is available on the community website. This is our June update from the Board of Directors with the Crossea Board. Bruce, would you do our treasurer's report, please, sir?
Certainly. Morning. How is everybody? I refer you to the handout that you have, and I'd also remind you that the numbers in parentheses are matched up with the numbers on the attached document sheets as well. We are still in a good financial position through the first 5 months of the year. In sewer, we've got about $4.4 million of total cash compared to 3.6 last year at this time, which is a positive variation of over $737,000. For the Property Owners Association and amenities, we have $2.2 million of capital, $6.5 million of operating cash for a total of $8.8 million. POA and amenities cash combined compared to a little over $6 million at the end of May of last year, which is a positive variation of $2.6 million. On the cash flow sheet, sewer ended, the sewer year-end forecast budget is a negative $17,000. This is partly due to a combination of positive cash from increased tap fees overshadowed by large increases in grinder pump costs due to high inflation. In addition, with more home starts than we budgeted in the first 5 months, the sewer extension crew has been helping with install grinder pumps, which also has increased the payroll expenses for operations of sewer. POA continues positive performance with a year-end positive forecast variation of $350,000. The major contributor is payroll with open positions yet to be filled and a forecasted positive variation to bad debt of over $140,000 due to increased collection efforts. On the amenities, we have a positive year-end forecast variation to budget of over $183,000. As always, golf represents the majority of that positive variation, driven by 2,800 more rounds than budget year to date and supported by strong package results. As the installation of the GPS units for the golf course is not complete, the lease for this system is budgeted starting in January, so we've realized a savings to date for the lease of approximately $55,000. POA and amenities year-end forecasted variance is favorable by more than $500,000. We continue to have a good financial performance in POA and amenities with minor challenges in sewer due to inflationary costs. Any questions? Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bruce. Bob had passed on a couple of reports he wanted me to share with you this morning. First, the new signage, welcome signage at the square, and the new relocated sign, welcome sign out at St. George will start after Labor Day. That's as soon as the contractor can get with us, so it will start after Labor Day. Also, the asphalt paving here in Fairfield Glade is about 67 complete. Obviously, they were called off-site to finish up Buc-ee's and a couple of other projects they're working on the interstate, so that's where the paving crew went. But we expect them back soon. And we continue to work with the county road commissioner, superintendent, to get chip and steel restarted back out here. Year-to-date golf rounds through last month were 49,500, which is about 2,800 more than budget. For the year, average golf rounds per course per day open were 110 compared to 111 in 2021. In 2021, we had about 1,250 fewer rounds, but we were open 17 fewer days due to weather. And that is the general manager's report. Next up, Barb, would you share the timeshare report with us?
Sure. Good morning. Wyndham timeshare visitors, month to date is 1,155. Year to date, 23,220. Wyndham timeshare-like revenue, the center, year-to-date, 9,875, which is 8%. Racket sports, $4,564, which is 4%. Dartmoor, 25,792, which is 24%. St. George, 7,401, which is 8%. Golf, 227,396, which is 9%, and food, 128,972, which is 23%, for a total year-to-date 403,940, which is an average of 12%. Right now, we're $20,000 more in revenue since for 2022.
Good news. Thanks for sharing, Barb. Sam. Architectural control report, please.
The architectural controls report for this month says as follows. Miscellaneous approvals through the month of May for 2022 is 618. Through May of last year is 772. New homes approved through the month of May this year is 50, and through last year is 51. New homes completed this year so far is 50, and last year's 30. Is there any questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. We have no unfinished business. We have no new business. And Bruce Horn, would you give us an update on Fairfield Glade Resident Services, please?
Thank you. This is a report about Fairfield Glade Resident Services. I'm pleased to report that our Way to Go program, the rides are up again this month, and we have had new clients and new volunteers for our program, so it's very successful. We also had our Caring Connections program going on, and it's gained more volunteers and more orientation hours for people that are joining the Caring Connections. We've gotten some new clients for that program as well, and we're very pleased with the performance of that into the community. We talked about the community safety programs. We're pleased to report that we had a very great turnout for the first phase of it, the first session earlier in the month. And the July and September, the first one is at the information fair here at the center. And in September, the safety day will be at the square. And I anticipate a great deal of participation in that program as well. And that's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Bruce. Okay, at this time, I'll open it up for comments from the floor, and please approach the microphone and identify yourself and your address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes, please.
Tom Ratcliffe, 157 Devonshire Drive. Couple of questions. Barb, if I can ask, you report on revenues, you do a great job. I'd be curious on the revenue side, when you have the restaurants part of it, is that up or down?
Oh, it's up. Let me see here. Last year was food, let's see. Food was 128, and last year it was 67. It says 67,922 at this time. So it's doubled since last year.
Okay, thank you, thank you. I had asked yesterday, for those that weren't here, 2 things to go on the ballot in the upcoming elections. 2 non-binding resolutions, and 1 that would be a binding resolution that would start the change in the bylaws process. I had asked the board to take it into consideration in the executive session, come back and talk about it, maybe under new business and so forth. I don't know if it's on their agenda under remarks from the board. That would be the typical approach, so we can't say anything, but if not, I appreciate hearing something. The resolutions, for those that weren't here yesterday, non-binding, 95% of any major capital improvement project would be borrowed, either internally or externally. So that was 1. The second part, a resolution that the voting structure for all elections in the community be changed, moved from homeowner-based to resident-based. So in other words, simply put, husband and wives can both vote, okay, as opposed to one property. And again, these would be non-binding, a vote, give the board direction. And then the binding one was to basically end the interval owner board member, eliminate that upon the next election, replace it with the director at large. That position really, from the timeshare position point of view, is really obsolete today and should be changed. So that was the ask. And again, These are so the members can vote on it. You know, I just point out, if you haven't seen Jerry Miller's article, you should really read it, because he's asking for the board to take and give us the voices that we need, not be so doing things so much, quote unquote, in executive sessions, no debates, nothing like that, that we see as a group. Because all we see is we're voting on measures, no debate and everything else. Give us a voice. So, thank you.
Hey, Tom, just a quick follow-up on that while you're there. Is regard to your resolution about the interval owner, I'm going to read to you from section 6.04 of the amendments to the charter and bylaws. No amendment to the charter or bylaws which initiated by the membership or directors may be adapted which has the effect of eliminating the interval owner director position without the express prior written consent of the timeshare executive council. So that's where that is. And Tom, we did review your other two resolutions, and at this time the board's not going to move on that action.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Other comments from the audience? Okay, we're going to go to remarks by board members. Greg?
Okay, I've got two sets of remarks. One is a quick update on the Druid Hills project. We've had the two subcommittee chairs come into the board, outline their process they're going to follow in terms of how to get at the requirements and how they're going to interact with the community. So that's all under works. We have a steering committee meeting today. We'll go into more depth with that based on the feedback we got from the board and other feedback we've gotten from the steering committee. And that is going to be a work in progress. One of the things you can anticipate, we don't have a date on it yet because we need to get not only the committee settled in on what they're going to do, but then the board has to look at it as well, is that there will likely be a food and beverage survey that's going to go out to try to get requirements that we can get from the community about what you think about what we're doing in terms of food and beverage over at Druid. Now, having said that, that'll probably be the first of, I hope, maybe two, could be three, because as we get feedback back from the community, our intention is to fine-tune that next survey to get at the underlying pieces of what's in that feedback. So I'm not sure if the site use agreement has been signed. Bob, I was going to ask him that this morning. He's gotten all the feedback from the steering committee that he's going to get about that, so it may be signed, and I just don't know about it, but it's either signed or close to signature. Now, having said that, this next piece, I speak for no other board member than myself, but what was in the across the board today, I felt strongly enough to, at least anyway, tell this group and tell the community about where I differ in the opinion. In today's across the board on the second page, there was a statement made, while we hear comments from segments of our membership who want additional dining options, the demonstrated lack of support speaks volumes to the contrary and will be a significant consideration as we reassess our capital plans during this year's budget process. The reason why I take somewhat of an exception to that is the data that's presented is correct. Okay, there's no argument about data, but it's data. It's not information. And what I mean by that, I went back and took a look at a survey that was done of the membership. I'm sorry I don't have the raw numbers. I wish I did, because it'd probably be more impactful if I did. But I'm going to read you a couple survey things that came out of this. It was done on 6/15/18, so roughly about 4 years ago. And there were a couple questions. I'm selecting ones, okay, so please bear with me here. The question was, assure financial transparency in how the community funds will be spent. 99% of the respondents strongly agreed with that. The second one was, amenity package should reflect the needs of our existing members. Only 13% strongly agreed with that. 32% strongly disagreed with that. Next question. We should strive to be a low-cost retirement community, and our amenities should reflect that. 17% strongly agreed with that. 42% strongly disagreed with that. Offer a variety of high-quality amenities that are good for our community, even if I don't use them, even if I don't use some or any of those amenities. 53% agreed, strongly agreed with that statement. 37% strongly disagreed. Help keep monthly dues as low as possible, regardless of the impact of our community operations, amenities, and home values. 10% strongly agreed with that. 37% strongly disagreed with that. And the final one I chose out here is our amenities should be partially subsidized by dues to provide greater value to our members. 24% strongly agreed, and only 4% or 9% strongly disagreed. Now, the reason why I'm taking the time to run through that is this is much the same way as what's in the board, across the board. It's data, it is not information. And the difference between the two is information is what you need to take actionable steps. It's what we need to base our decisions on, not various pieces of data that we all have. And there's a process that we're trying to run through, and I'm using Druid as a case study here, but I think the implications here are stronger than just what we do with Druid. Now, let me also say one other thing. Not all decisions need to follow this process. And I'll give you a good example. If we're all in this room today and a fire breaks out, the last thing we need to do is form a committee to decide if we're going to get out. Okay? So there are certain decisions that we need to make that we don't need to go through that process, but there's other large ones that affect the whole community that we do need to go through. Now, having said that, when I talk about the community, I want to be real clear about this, and this is something we are trying to strive very hard for Druid. The community is certainly made up of the membership here, members in good standing. That's one piece. It's also made up of the timeshares. As you just heard here today, 23% of our revenue for food and beverage is timeshares. Now, when we go through surveys and things like that, we don't get a response from them. So if we don't go out and actively pursue getting the responses from the timeshares, we won't know. Another major part of our revenue stream are our packages and our golf packages. And as Bruce will know, and I know he can say, is that our packages drive a lot of our revenue in our golf. Well, those guys, when we met with them last couple of weeks ago, they talked about what they wanted around here, because they want something place to eat afterwards. They don't want to have to continually go out and leave the premises and that type of thing, for a whole host of reasons. We need to talk to realtors and the developer, because quite honestly, I want you to look at the fourth core value there, providing a variety of high-quality amenities and services which reflect the interests of our current and prospective
Members.
I lost it?
Members.
Members and guests. So we need to be looking at how we're marketing, what the trends are, what other people are going to be encouraged to come here to. It's not just the members making a vote and saying that's the only thing we need to consider. Now, all of those pieces of information need to come together, or data need to come together to get information. Now, I would say, and this is my own personal view, doesn't share by to anybody else on this board necessarily, but the information that the data that we got from the past experiences concerning our food and beverage operation is just exactly that, because what we didn't do is we didn't go through a process that got to the requirements. And we didn't build the assumptions of what we expected out of those things. And then we didn't come back to the community and say, these are the requirements we're getting from you. You know what? What I'd like to know is, are you willing to pay for it? And tell you what it's going to cost. And then we can have an honest conversation around whether or not what we're going to do or what we want to do is what we should do. And I believe that very, very strongly. So the process that we're going to follow, and I continue to bang this tom-tom, and I will as long as I sit in this chair, is that we need to develop the requirements. We need to keep an open mind because I'm not voting what Greg Jones wants. That's my opinion. My vote needs to reflect what the community wants. And as long as I sit in this chair, that's what I'm looking for. And I'm not saying that anybody else around here is not, because I believe every single person that I work with here on this board has the best interest of the community in mind. But we need to do that, and the real sausage making in terms of doing this is engage community, engage committees, engage the board into making out that data into actionable information. And that's what we need to be doing. We need to test assumptions. We need to go back to the community. We need to come to the board. We need to come to the steering committee and test the assumptions that are being made in terms of this business case. And you're going to hear, as we go through the Druid process, and I hope other processes that we go through, the need for what I'm calling a business case. Now, the business case really is two components: what's expected revenues and what are expected expenses. And there's a big capital outlay in there that we have to take into account. But typically, as you may or may not be aware, with all of our amenities, we don't ask the amenities to pick up the capital outlay. That's a decision the community and the board really has to make. So when we do this, we do need to take a look at what the operating costs are going to be. And another major component part of looking at that is our staff. Because at the end of the day, when we make these decisions, the staff inherits the operating plan. And when they inherit the operating plan, they are responsible for making those decisions that will make that operating plan meet its goals. The board has a big piece of that because we set the budget. And that means we set out the financial plan. But we cannot uncouple the fact that the staff has a big piece of operating the, matter of fact, that is their charge. We are not charged as board members to operate Fairfield Glade. That is not our charter. So we rely on staff to make sure they make the right decisions, that take the guidance and the planning that the board has given them to make the decisions. So at the end of the day, when we get to that point, after we go through the sausage making of engaging the community and the various stakeholders and members and that type of thing, what I would like to see us make sure that we do is that we continue to develop those assumptions. We make them clear to the community of what those assumptions are, allow people to interact with that and test those assumptions, make sure that we're all on the same page about where we're going to go, and we make that in a transparent way. Now, I will be the first one to tell you that as part of the Druid Hills thing, I've gotten probably over 300 emails now. And the one thing I can tell you is there's no consistency. And that's what we are going to strive for, is the consistency, because what gets us to consistency are agreed upon requirements and agreed upon assumptions. Now, I will tell you, I'm also not, the guy who dreams all the time either, because I know that there's always going to be outliers. Not everyone's going to agree. But what we're looking for is that centerpiece. You heard some of the data here from the surveys, and they go very low to very high, depending on the question. What we're looking for is where are the centers, because even those that had like 32%, well, there's probably still around 70% that were in the middle. What we're looking for is what they're looking for. So I wanted to make those comments here, and I recognize that the comments that were made across the board had all the good intentions, but I have a different opinion, and I wanted to make sure I shared that with the community. So thank
Are
you.
there comments from other board members? Misty, I'm going to turn it over to you.
I move we adjourn.
You may have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.